Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Just for Little Leagues podcast, but now NXT Takeover. And this is my first episode with my co-host, my father. Say hello, Dad.
What's up, everybody?
Starting out our amazing NXT night, Oba Femi. Last week, he won the NXT Championship and came out to celebrate, and quote Thanos, the Marvel one. He talked about how he was backed by Destiny during his achievements.
Let's talk about that promo for a minute. Oba's always been good on the mic, but I feel like he stepped it up this week now that he's holding the strap. Was there anything about it that surprised you, Trevor?
When he spoke in like the most American accent, that was absolutely insane to me. I was so shocked. What was that? What happened?
It was awesome. It's nice to see Oba stretching and doing things a little bit different and surprising us.
No one knew those vocal cords could move like that.
And before we knew it, somebody had to come out and interrupt him.
It was Tony D'Angelo, the Don of NXT. And he was interested in the part where Oba said he was the longest reigning North American champion. But when it comes to that title, it's the Ruler 1, the Don 2. And he's the one man that beat Oba. And when he comes for the NXT title, it'll be Tony walking out with 2 titles. Then Oba referenced Santa dropping Tony. And then of course Ridge had to come out and Tony and him started brawling. But then Eddie decided it would be a good idea to attack Oba from behind, and then sadly Eddie knocked him down and held up the title. What was your thoughts on that promo other than that crazy accent change?
I'm not sure where they're going with Eddie. I'm one with the crowd when Eddie comes out.
Eddie the door.
Eddie the door. So I'm not sure what they're trying to do with all of this. I feel like there's a lot of interesting angles at NXT right now, but I'm not biting on Eddie.
Yeah, Eddie's not my personal favorite. Ever since he got into his whole championship business, I was like, not the greatest fit for me personally. But Tony and Ridge, excited to see where that goes. And hopefully Tony doesn't lose that title anytime soon. Then it was time for the first number 1 contenders match of the night. Stephanie Vakir and Shotzi. This match was for the number 1 contenders of the Women's North American Championship. The match was going really well until JC Jane came out and Stephanie and Shotzi worked together to drop her in the middle of the ring. But when the ref wasn't looking, Fallon Henley hit Stephanie's back with the title and Shotzi got the win. That match will be in 2 weeks. Shotzi versus Fallon Henley for the Women's North American Championship.
And now this is a match where I get a little bit confused. We started off the year with New Year's Evil, with Stephanie getting her shot and winning a 4-way to be the number 1 contender. So why are we suddenly having another match to determine the number 1 contender that's already been determined just because Shotzi got a pin?
Yeah, I was not very happy with Stephanie losing that match, especially in the stupidest way. But it just goes to show that Fallon Henley is scared about Stephanie coming after that title, and that she knows Stephanie can beat her. Because, really, if Stephanie has a fair shot, she can beat anyone.
We then transition backstage, where for some reason Zarya is giving Kalani a pep talk. I'm not sure where they're going with this. I mean, Zarya was booked like the Doomsday Apocalypse survivor, and suddenly now she's everybody's friend in the back.
Yeah, going from this scary girl they were hyping up for weeks with that weird video of that CGI NXT building, which the Performance Center looks nothing like, where she was this big monster ready to take down anyone that comes in her way, to, Kalani, you gotta get that pent-up rage from losing all these matches and use it as motivation to win more. So, kind of a strange transition between things.
So then Cora Jade comes out, calls Kalani the same little girl she's always been, but Kalani steps up and slaps the taste out of her mouth, which then brings them into a match later on tonight.
Then still backstage, we see Stephanie Vakir looking for JC Jane and Fallon Henley. She successfully finds JC getting her makeup done, and Stephanie beats her right off her face. But sadly, she cannot find Henley and give her the beating she deserves.
We transition to Oba, in Ava's office demanding his match with Eddie. He's willing to give Eddie a title shot if that's what it takes to get the match underway.
He's also willing to harass and attack Mr. Stone, which, I don't know if it's so fair.
I loved it. It was a great bit when he picked up Mr. Stone and Ava's demanding to put him down, and then he puts him down with a quick comment, pick him up, coming from the peanut gallery. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, you do not want to be rivaling Oba's strength.
Continuing with tonight's backstage vignettes, we see a locker room with a very sad Mr. Chase sitting in the corner. Although there wasn't any focus on Mr. Chase, I'm really excited to find out when he's going to cheer up and what's going to bring about the Chase that we love. But in front of him is NXT's gatekeeper, Dante Chen, stepping up into the face of Ethan Page, all ego. Dante confronts Ethan over his treatment of Javon and Uncle Seti the last few weeks, leaving both of them hospitalized and out of action indefinitely. Of course, Ethan isn't going to take this from Dante, especially after his humiliating loss at a house show featured on social media a few weeks back. So it sets up the next match between Ethan and Dante.
This match was extremely short, which maybe I should have expected, saying it's Ethan versus Dante. But Dante was able to put up a fight at that previously mentioned house show. But Ethan did end up with the win. But a twist, well, not really, after the match, was Ethan taking off Dante's shoe and then slamming his foot in between the ring and the steel steps. And for all we know, Dante may be missing a foot. But thankfully, Javon ran out and started attacking Ethan. But Ethan hits his jaw and Javon fell down and his mouth started bleeding. Javon, put something, like wear a mask or something. Please, your jaw is not okay. And it was crazy how only one small hit from all ego was able to knock that jaw right out of place.
We then cut backstage where Ashante the Adonis is pushing up on Carmen Petrovic once again. This relationship has had its ups and downs, questioning if Ashante actually was dedicated, but he presents her with a rose, and oh my goodness, a kiss. We get a kiss backstage.
I thought it was disgusting and icky. Up next, our last number one contenders match of the night, the Meta Girls and Unholy Union, to see who will face Naomi and Bianca Belair for the Women's Tag Team Championship. This match, it was alright to me. It's really only because I'm not particularly a fan of either of the teams, but after a long fight and match, the Meta Girls came out on top. I gotta give them respect where respect is due. Those girls were able to put on a crazy match, and it was pretty entertaining.
I'm really excited to see where the Meta Girls take this. This is their chance to step up into the big time, and considering that I'm expecting some move-ups shortly with the Royal Rumble looming in the future, the big question, are the Meta Girls moving up to the main roster? I don't think they're going to get the straps, but this is definitely a way to see how they handle the big stage.
I think they could possibly move up, and it's definitely coming in the near future. But it could not also be with the Rumble. Saying there's a trade between the companies, I don't know if it's still open, but if it is, that trade could definitely be with the Meta Girls. We still have the possibility of one of Bianca or maybe even Naomi attacking Jade to get her out of action for so long. And with Naomi getting the tag team championship after Jade being out for so long, that question still remains. Who attacked Jade? And possibly during the Meta Girls match with the champions, maybe if Bianca or Naomi did attack them, there could be some sort of interference. And maybe, I'm not saying that the Meta Girls could win. They probably could win, but I'm not sure, saying I haven't seen their full potential so much. But they definitely have a chance at beating Bianca Belair and Naomi.
We're now backstage where Lexis King is having his name placed on the Heritage Cup, cementing himself in the legacy that is the Heritage Cup. While this is going on, Charlie Dempsey and Ren XT come out to ask for a rematch. Well, not so much Charlie, but Ren is saying she hears something.
Possibly she should get her hearing checked out if she's hearing voices in her head. Because that's not the best thing to be having.
Done well for Randy Orton. Dad jokes.
Gosh, this guy. But a big boom from the convenient garage door gets Ava's attention, and she rushes outside through a conveniently placed door to find Tony D'Angelo and Ridge Holland brawling. Let's go for the Dawn!
I had to ask what all this backstage brawling's going on is where's the family? I understand Tony can handle things on his own, but in the world's most dangerous parking lot, I want to see a gang battle.
Up next, Kalani Jordan and Cora Jade. Cora Jade scratched Kalani's eyes while the ref was holding Kalani back and being faced away from Cora. And, of course, since Cora cheated, she won. But Masha Slamovich, the Women's TNA Knockouts champion, was watching the match. And after the match, Cora and Masha were looking at each other. So, possible more TNA and NXT championship matches.
Well, I feel like they set this up in the backstage bit earlier when Cora told Kalani she would have gold before Kalani. Are we going to set up a Cora Jade Masha match at a TNA event?
That is a good point, but ever since this whole TNA collaboration started, I never believed that a WWE signed wrestler would become a TNA champion because that doesn't really make much sense.
But we'll see where they take it. It'll be interesting to see. Continuing the string of backstage vignettes tonight, Fraxium gets confronted by Josh Briggs and Yoshiki Inamura. Josh and Yoshiki claim they got next. They're going to take out Fraxium as soon as their match tonight is over. They want their shot at the straps.
They also claim how they got next for those championships, but in reality, we all know the family does.
All right, fanboy, calm down.
All right.
The final match of the night, NXT Tag Team Champions, OTM and Fraxium. But in a shocking turn, we had some surprise visitors tonight. DIY, Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Wrestling were standing up in the balcony watching the match.
I'm surprised they didn't do anything during the match, saying their whole kind of heel run going on SmackDown currently.
They were just one great tag team watching another. Apparently Johnny Wrestling knows what's going on, but Tommaso, hasn't been paying attention to what's going on in NXT anymore, with his sights set solely on the belts.
Especially with the way he's been holding it.
Oh, he's in love with that belt.
I wasn't downing it, but Axiom and Frazier won. They won once they got the upper hand, and Lucien Price was laying on the announcer's table, and Frazier frog splashed right through him and right through a table.
It's good to see some of the tables are still destructible.
Especially with those new Raw, SmackDown, and Force tables. It's kind of annoying they don't break. It's so nice seeing them just...
But it'll be cool when somebody finally does.
Let's hope it's not because of Ridge Holland, though.
The last thing we get tonight is Roxanne coming into the ring to cut a promo about losing the belt at New Year's Evil.
Roxanne claimed that the NXT Women's Division would fall apart without her as champ. She also said NXT doesn't deserve her. In my personal thought, as not the biggest fan of her, I don't mind that so much, but I know that other people definitely will.
We then get a big surprise as suddenly music hits that no one was expecting. Bayley showed up at NXT to confront Roxanne and try to give her a little bit of advice.
But, of course, Roxanne being Roxanne, said she didn't ask Bayley for advice. Bayley also noted how the division will be fine and that they're bigger than that. Bayley and Roxanne were arguing for some time, but the show cut off. But I'm sure the rest of what happened is probably somewhere, like Instagram or YouTube. But someone said something, and they started fighting, and Bayley came out on top.
So next week we have a couple of championship matches lined up, with Tony D going up against Ridge Holland for the North American Championship, and Obafemi crushing Eddie Thorpe in what looks like it could be a strap match. We didn't talk about it earlier. Trevor, what did you think when Eddie Thorpe came in with that long strap wrapped around his arm?
I was thinking, as CM Punk, someone who previously was featured on NXT, I was thinking his match will be nowhere as good as CM Punk's strap match was.
Well, all I could say, Eddie, you need more than a strap. You need a baton, a battering ram, a red man suit, a couple of guys to help you, handcuffs, chains, cement shoes. Maybe Tony D can help you out with those. But there's no shot that you're taking out Oba.
Just if it will be a strap match, Eddie's already made his doom clear.
It may be a strap match, but when this thing's over, it's going to be a casket match. Goodbye, Eddie. Here's the door.
But before next week happens, I want to say I believe in Tony D'Angelo keeping his championship, as he should, saying he's the Don of NXT. Bada bing, bada boom.
All right, everybody. So that's it for our first episode of Just a Little Leagues podcast, NXT Takeover.
See you next week.
Goodbye.
Subscribe so that you don't miss out on next week's episode. And once again, goodbye.